Hello my friends and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the things that I do when I'm having a tough time with my mental health to sort of help me navigate that as well as shift the energy around it. I do want to preface this video with saying that obviously if you are severely struggling with your mental health, I think it's very, very important that you seek professional help. I myself have had years of therapy. Yeah, so just for context, I am someone who has worked a lot on my mental health. I have transformed it throughout my 20s, and I used to spend every day in fear and anxiety, also not really knowing what that was, thinking that that was normal. Now I lead such a happy and much more free life. However, as most of us who are on this journey will know, old patterns are almost always bound to come back up and test and trial us to see if we are ready to move to the next level. And that is what has been frankly happening to me lately. I have been very triggered, very activated in old stuff that honestly I thought I was done with. I was like, surely after all those years of therapy, all this stuff I now know, all the coaching, all the embodiment, surely we're not back here. But alas, we were indeed, in fact, back there. Those old thoughts and triggers and patterns were coming up for me. And I had to sit with that, navigate that. And these are the points that I want to share with you today that I found have helped me the most. So firstly, it has been very helpful for me to work with the concept of wholeness. I have been listening to a Danish audiobook called Dit selvhelbredende sind, which I suppose translates to Your Healing Mind, by psychotherapist Mette Louise Holland, and that book has been very helpful, so far I haven't finished it yet, so I mean saying transformative maybe feels a bit early, but I can tell it's going to be very impactful for me. And she just shares this different approach to your thoughts, almost like, I mean, so far where I'm at in the book, it's very much about almost detaching from your thoughts, and to me it aligns with a lot of more spiritual teachings. It just uses different language, and I love when there's this how do you say, synchronicity between teachings that are out there that just use different terminology to kind of, like, this is simplified, so bear with me, but to kind of say similar things or get similar results. I find that very interesting. And this book was just honestly what I really needed to be taken out of my own mind, to be snapped out of my own mind, because it works with detachment and because it reminds you that you are always whole. Your body wants to be whole, your mind wants to be healthy, your baseline is good, you just need to get back there. I really like that approach because sometimes when I'm going through these types of feelings, I have a tendency to fall into a trap where I feel like I'm broken or something is wrong with me. And I think eliminating that sort of language and thinking and approaching it from a place of saying, I have a baseline of wholeness, I just need to get back there, is much more empowering than viewing yourself as broken. And I think for me it also just aligns spiritually because, yeah, it's almost like if you believe in having a soul, right? No one could ever break your soul, in my spiritual understanding, I suppose. Like Beyonce said, you won't break my soul. You can't break my soul. That was super helpful. And like when I'm in that, I want to say quite dark spot, because I was in quite a dark spot, having a more psychology-based approach was actually very helpful, because in my very dark moments, I also start questioning everything around me. I start questioning my spiritual beliefs, if this is all made up, if I've even made any progress, what the hell was all this for? Like, that's where I was at. So in that moment, having something that felt psychology approved was very helpful for me. I don't think it's necessarily bad to question your spiritual beliefs. I think we should question those things, because otherwise, you know, historically, it doesn't work out so well if we don't you know, hold a critical eye to spiritual or religious things. And I also think it's part of human nature. But for me, it's that thing, if I'm experiencing something difficult, I usually lean on my belief system and my spirituality. And when I then start questioning that at the same time as I'm going through something difficult, it becomes way more difficult. So this book for me and this concept of wholeness just really helped me guide myself back to like a remembering that no matter what you call it, no matter what you want to phrase it, can work and can be true for you if you let it be. My second point is showing up for yourself. And the last thing I need when I'm dealing with something difficult, either in my world or in my mind or both, is a messy room or a dirty kitchen. Plus, it gives you something to do if you're stuck in that loop. Having a clean space brings me so much more peace. So I know it's hard when you're in those moments where you maybe don't feel like you have a lot of energy to do things, but you will feel better. And it's also almost like signaling to yourself, I haven't given up. My mind, my thoughts might be telling me, give up, you've given up, it's never gonna happen. But no one who's given up is cleaning their house. And similarly, no one who has given up is going to the gym. I really rely on the gym and moving my body for like literally physiologically or whatever, getting endorphins. We all know that helps boost the mood, right? So that's a good one. When I was in that really, really dark place a few weeks ago, I was just like saying to myself, no one who's given up is doing push-ups. No one who actually thinks that is here. It's like, and this might be a weird analogy. I use a lot of Harry Potter analogies, but what popped into my mind just now was in the end of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, when they come to like I can't remember what the inn is called, the place that Aberforth, Dumbledore's brother, has, and he has to like help them get in to the room of requirement through the painting of Ariana. That is what popped into my head, and how he says all this like really depressive stuff about the dark side has already won, there's no point, and then he helps them anyway get into Hogwarts to find the Horcruxes, and they have some sort of conversation about it, and I think it's Hermione who goes, she's like, that isn't the actions of a man who's given up or someone who's really given up. Like, he might be saying all that, but he's still, you know, helping us. He's still hoping. And in a really weird roundabout way, that is what me being at the gym when I was having some super dark thoughts reminded me of. So yeah, not sure how we quite ended there, but alas, sometimes these things come through in funny ways. And look, obviously it's a delicate balance, because depending on what you are crashing out over, so to say, sometimes going to the gym isn't the right thing if it's gonna make you really stressed or really overstimulated, but it will be the right thing if it helps you feel more empowered, if it physiologically like snaps you out of it, at least momentarily. Like for me, I really have relied on it now, like recently, and way back when I was struggling, it was that thing of, okay, I can strengthen my body, I can also strengthen my mind, I am in control. The gym and physical activity for me is just absolutely key. My next point is all about accepting and allowing, because what I find is I have a tricky or a negative thought, then I spiral about having a tricky or a negative thought, and so on and so forth. It becomes an exponentially larger problem than it was when I just had the initial thought, because I start making my thought mean all this stuff. Like, I have a thought and then suddenly I'm taken back, suddenly none of all the work I've done mattered, suddenly all of these other thoughts spawn from this one thought, right? And that's why sometimes to calm our thoughts, we need to actually allow them to just be like, okay, I might have to sort of carry this thought around all day. It's been very persistent, but I'm still gonna go about my day. You're allowed, you can be here, but you're not taking the driver's seat, essentially, is the vibe I want to bring to the negative thought. The thought is allowed, we're not kicking it out of the car, but we can try and make sure that it doesn't take the steering wheel. The thought can be there, look at it, observe it, don't wallow in it, but also don't resist it, because the resistance, in my experience, multiplies it, because it shows you that you're believing the thought. If you weren't believing it, why would you be resisting it? Why would you want to run away from it so badly? Only if it's true. Like, we have all sorts of thoughts all day, every day. Some weird ones, some true ones, some that have nothing to do with reality. It's only the meaning we attach to those thoughts that create our perception of reality. And so if I didn't attach any meaning to having those thoughts and feelings, I wouldn't have spiraled. But I did, because I'm human and that's what we do. But ultimately that thought in itself is no different than me thinking, Batman has purple hair. I feel completely neutral about that fact. It's just a thought. So yeah, that's also where the book I mentioned in the beginning and that approach of wholeness is very helpful, because to get back to neutrality, to show yourself that the thought is neutral and not true and not scary, you have to approach it the same way you would any other thought. And those thoughts are allowed. It's what you make your thought means that harms you, not the thought itself. So if you can just practice allowing the thought, it will eventually move on and be taken over by another thought. But if you panic about it, if you start resisting it, if you start attaching all this meaning to it, it's gonna keep looping. It's gonna get louder. The best way to actually quiet it is by allowing it and then moving on to the next thought, because inevitably more thoughts will come. And that's when, for me, like when my own mind was just too loud, again, I do believe in sitting with our thoughts, in processing, but sometimes when it's just too damn loud in there, I need something to block it out. Be that entertainment, something that just makes me think of something completely different. I think that's great. I think there's a great time and place. My go-to is, as you may have guessed, just re-listening to the Harry Potter books. It's like perfect entertainment / comfort for me. You probably have a similar thing, or like a podcast or an audiobook you can rely on. Go do that, or listen to something that literally reprograms you. I have been really into subliminals, activations, and affirmations. I've always done affirmations, actually, like always. Not like I came out the womb doing affirmations, but you know what I mean. While I was, like, since I've been on this path, I've been doing affirmations. But subliminals, just having them on in the background, so great. And then I've been really into these activations from, I think it's called Activate now. It was called Superhuman before. The owner is Mimi Bouchard. I think that's how you say her name. She's been a guest on Almost 30 podcast. I really recommend both the episodes where they talk to her. There's also a free activation in their podcast feed that I love to just sometimes pop on. And then if you just look up activations on YouTube, you will find them. So essentially, if you don't know what an activation is it's like affirmations and a meditation, but you don't have to sit down to do them. You can do them while you're walking. Some of them will be made with specific things in mind. And one of those activations and 15 minutes on the treadmill has truly done wonders for me. So it's like, sometimes, you know, as I said, I always think we should process. I really do believe in that. I've done years of therapy myself. But at least in my experience, it gets to a point where it's like, well, then what now? I know this, I have all this insight. I need to embody something different. I need to show up in the world in a new way. And I find that these sort of subconscious programming things such as subliminals and activations have been super helpful for me in that regard. And then it's also just about going out there and doing that thing. Don't do the same thing you usually do when you're in this mood. Show up differently to show yourself that you are in a new reality, that old feeling no longer gets to be in charge, okay? You are in charge of your own actions, and the more you do things that break with your old identity, the more you will be able to step into a new identity. We cannot stay stuck. We cannot let these old patterns run our lives. I am like really at that fullness with some of my stuff. I'm like it's up to here, you know. Sometimes things need to almost ripen until we're ready to let them go. I have let a lot of stuff go, but it's so ripe. And I think it's good to get to that spot where you also feel the frustration of like this again, because it means you're on the right path. And my final note to you is just remembering that you are not alone. Sometimes we can feel so incredibly isolated when we are experiencing this. Personally, like, I'll talk to my closest, but I'm not always one to reach out when I'm hurting. And yeah, I definitely go into like isolation mode, and a part of me is like, no one has ever felt this particular feeling. And then when you go on the internet, you literally see other people explain that exact feeling, and you're like, oh, I'm not alone. And that's actually good news, because it means what you're going through isn't special to you. Sometimes the anxiety I experience wants me to feel like I'm the special one, right? So it's like, oh, I might have this belief system. I might think we're all ultimately worthy. We should all be deserving of love. I should get to rest. Everyone is worthy of rest and love and abundance. That's my belief system. But me specifically, I actually need to work harder. I actually need to hustle. I actually do need to prove my worth through these material things. And it doesn't apply to anyone else. If it was my best friend or like one of my coaching clients, I would say something else. But me, back to the Harry Potter, I am the chosen one. I specifically have to do this. And what I'm trying to get at here is that sometimes anxiety and fear wants to make us special, but we are not special. This is very human. Lots of people experience it. It sucks. I don't think just because something is common that it should be normal. I don't believe we should be experiencing this much fear and anxiety in our modern society, coming from like one of the most privileged countries in the world, like me. I'm from Denmark, right? I think it's absolutely absurd that we struggle that much with our mental health, and there's something bigger and underlying going on there. So just to be clear, it is common. That does not mean I think that's how it should be. However, that is how it is. Lots of people experience this. The human experience will always have friction. It has always had friction. You're not meant to live a friction-free life. A good life is not a life where you are necessarily constantly happy. It's a life where you show up for yourself and where you can trust yourself, your present self and your future self, to figure it out. A happy life isn't about just not feeling any negative feelings. A happy life to me is a life where I get to be everything I am, and where I get to choose, and where I get to show up differently and prove to myself I can break this pattern. I get to experience it. I get to experience the ups and downs, and I get to show myself that I can handle them in a new way. So yeah, final reminder, you are not alone, you are not special. No rule applies only to you. If you're thinking something and you wouldn't say it applies to me or to your bestie or to your mom, then my darling, why would it apply to you? Why would you be the one who needs to hustle, who must worry, who must live in fear because what if you didn't? Why would you be the chosen one? You're not. Okay, my loves, that was all I had for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you get through whatever season you're going through with as much self-love and compassion as possible. And I'm rooting for you. I believe in you. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.